And welcome into Hockey Sense, everybody. Welcome in. What's going on? Happy holidays to you. We've got another edition brought to you by First Community. This is going to be a good one, too. Doug Armstrong is going to join me here in a couple of minutes. Jamal Mayers later in the show. We're live at the Half Coast Studios here in Creve Coeur, Missouri. And it's great to be with you once again. The Blues played last night in Calgary. Their next game now is against Edmonton, and then they play Vancouver to close out this road trip. They've got points in 5 straight. They made a coaching change. We've got so much to get into with Army. I can't wait. We'll talk a little Hockey Canada as well as we give a big shout out to Colton Parayko, the big right shot D-man, and Jordan Bennington on being selected to Hockey Canada. I hear some people saying that, Robert Thomas is a snub. He got snubbed. Listen, I love Robbie Thomas. The injury probably worked against him, and maybe he's considered an alternate, and he's one of those players who was told to be on standby in the event that Team Canada suffers an injury. You just never know. He had a hell of a game last night. Robert Thomas, I think, had his best game of the season last night in Calgary. And it wasn't just because of the points, but the points obviously helped. But it's the playmaking. Now you're starting to see him connect on a lot of the passes that we've seen him routinely make throughout the course of his career. The timing has been a little bit off since he came back from injury, and even early in the year when the season started, he wasn't necessarily up to speed. He wasn't playing with Buchnevich. They had him spread out all over the place in terms of what the line combinations were, with Buchnevich playing center. He's got great chemistry with Buchnevich, and it looks like right now, even with Neighbors on the other side, they've got something cooking. And they got it going on the power play. The power play looks crispier. Their 5-on-5 ability to hang on to the puck and generate scoring chances appears to be better. And so there's a lot of things working in the Blues' favor right now. That's great to see. But Robbie Thomas last night making plays, the vision, earlier in the year, you see him attempting to make plays that he would typically make, and he just wasn't executing on them. Last night, I thought he did a much better job at doing that. He created the game winner in overtime as well. That was quite the review. I mean, one of the longest reviews we've seen in quite some time. Took forever for the officials and obviously the situation room in Toronto to officially credit the Blues and Colton Parayko with the goal. That's Parayko's 4th career overtime winner. That's the most all-time in the history of the Blues among defensemen. No other defenseman in NHL Blues or in Blues history has scored more overtime game-winning goals than Colton Parayko. You're still having some people question the decision to keep Parayko on Hockey Canada. I know Chris Tanev's name's been brought up a lot, and I like Tanev. He's a warrior. He blocks a lot of shots, but, Parayko, you just look at it statistically, he blocks just as many shots, basically. He's always up there in block shots. He played almost 30 minutes again last night. He's been over 30 minutes on a couple of occasions this year. He's a one-man breakout. I don't think Tanev skates nearly to the level that Parayko does. And maybe he brings a little more physicality, but I will say this about Parayko in terms of physicality. Parayko doesn't play a soft game for being a big player. Now, he's not going to drop the gloves, he's not going to fight, and he's not going to have that big growl on his face and, look angry all the time. I mean, you look at a guy like Tanev, for example, and listen, I like Tanev's game, but he always looks kind of disheveled. He's got that look to him. He's diving all over the place. He's running around. He's a little bit crazier in terms of his mentality and how he goes about his business. Parayko just kind of plays a little bit of a more controlled game, if that makes sense. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Parayko's better than Tanev or whatever, but sometimes you got to make a decision in terms of what you want. Parayko, and listen, hearing some of the analysis, and people are saying, well, Tanev plays against the other team's top players every single night. Well, you don't think Parayko does? You don't think any top pair defenseman in the league plays against the other team's top players every single night? And that's one thing about top defensemen that I will say. These guys don't grow on trees. There aren't too many of them in the league who can truly shut down top players game in and game out. Parayko's one of those guys who I think can. I think he's among the best, if not the best, one-on-one defender in the league. He's got the reach, the long stick, the ability to recover with his legs, his skating ability. But getting back to the toughness part of it, he doesn't drop the gloves. No, he doesn't fight. But he gets involved in the scrum. Not in the most intimidating fashion, and I can see why people maybe have gotten frustrated with that over the years when you consider his size. But how often do you see Parayko get beat in a puck battle in the corner, get beat with body position in front of the net, and in a battle in front of the net. He's very good net front, very good in the corner. And, there's different types of physicality, and that is physicality to me, is winning battles. It's no different than stepping up and delivering an open ice hit where everyone comes out of their seats and goes crazy and the buckets are flying. There's different types of physicality. So Parayko doesn't play a soft game. And listen, we all know how much Doug Armstrong likes size on the back end. And some people are saying, well, he signed Torrey Krug and you got Scotty Perunovich here. But at the end of the day, he likes size. And when the Blues won a Stanley Cup, they did it with big defensemen. I'll never forget talking with Pat Maroon just prior to the playoffs in 2019 when Maroon was playing with the Blues. And big shout out to Patty, by the way, who just got to 800 games, which is just an incredible accomplishment when you consider where he came from, how it all started, the fact that he didn't even know if he was going to get a game, let alone 800. And then when he got to 500, it was like, wow, this guy's at 500 games, and then 600, 700, 800. He's a winner. He's a guy that, teammates and organizations want to have around. Luke Richardson, by the way, the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, fired yesterday. People have asked me, why do you think he got fired? Listen, I think it comes down to Connor Bedard. I really do. And I'm not going to sit here and say Bedard went to management or ownership and said, hey, get this guy out of here, because I don't think that's the case at all. But when you have your franchise player, your savior, everything rests on the shoulders of Connor Bedard. If Bedard doesn't develop into a generational player, then this is a major swing and miss for everybody, not just the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm not going to fault the Blackhawks for taking Bedard first overall. Anybody, my mother would have taken Connor Bedard first overall. I mean, there was so much hype surrounding him. But if he doesn't match that hype and develop into a generational talent, which is way too early to say that he won't, but he is undersized and whatnot. And there was a couple of games ago when Bedard scored his first goal in like 11 or 12 games or whatever it was. Maybe it was more than that. And after the game, Luke Richardson made a comment about, yeah, it's great that he scored, but it's not great if you give up two. If you score one and then give up two, it's like taking one step forward and two steps backwards. That was an interesting comment. And I read that. And I heard him say it, and I was like, wow, did he really just say that? I mean, that's a shot. And that's one thing where these coaches are in tough positions where they're being asked to win, even in Chicago, where it's like, oh, no, he's not expected to win. They're in rebuild mode. BS, man. The guy just got fired 20-plus games into the season when their roster is not very good, and you're firing this guy. And how much does it have to do with Connor Bedard's lack of production here and them being fearful that maybe he isn't developing at the pace that they need him to develop at, or that they were hoping that he would develop at? Last year he had the injury, but he still put up decent numbers, won the Calder Trophy as the Rookie of the Year, and his highlight reel was absolutely incredible. But these coaches are asked to, oh yeah, we're in rebuild, but deep down they're asked to win. Otherwise you don't get fired. They want to see positive results individually, as a team. But it's hard when you have an 18 or 19-year-old player on your roster and they don't know how to play in both ends of the ice. They don't understand how to play the defensive side of things. And so, yeah, you score one and it looks great. Okay, you score a power play goal, then you give up two. You're on the ice for 2 goals against, and they may or may not be directly your fault. But something tells me that it probably had to do with some type of lack of consciousness on Bedard's behalf for that type of comment to be made by the head coach afterwards. So now the kid reads that, the organization, the team, I think they feel a little bit of embarrassment by the fact that Bedard didn't make Canada's roster. They shouldn't be embarrassed by that. I said this several times, Sidney Crosby, and let's be clear, Bedard's not Crosby. Crosby had 102 points as a rookie, as an 18-year-old, which is just absolutely incredible. And he's up to 1,600 points and counting right now, 1,600 plus. He's got 600 plus goals. I don't know what Bedard's numbers are going to look like, but I would bet that he doesn't get to 1,600 points. And again, it's not a shot. It's not a knock. How many players get to 1,600 in the history of the game? There's not too many who can actually do that. But there probably is some embarrassment by the criticism that Bedard has taken. So it's not Bedard's fault. No, it's the coach's fault. So you fire the coach. Coaching's a tough business. I said on Twitter a few weeks ago, this is prior to Jim Montgomery being fired in Boston. Or no, it was right after he got fired, but prior to him getting hired by St. Louis, and I said, if I was a head coach with any type of leverage, now in the case of Drew Bannister, for example, he didn't have the leverage to negotiate any type of term really on his behalf or on his contract. You know, he just gotten the job as an interim. The Blues hired and kicked the tires on some other candidates. They chose to go with Bannister. I'm sure they always had one eye open looking at Jim Montgomery to see where that was going to go. There was some talk about Montgomery not being back last offseason by the Boston Bruins. And then once they got off to a slow start, you just knew it was a matter of time before that shoe was going to drop and he was going to be fired. In fact, when I had Darren Drager on here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community, just a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Jim Montgomery, and I said, is he on the hot seat? And Drager's immediate response was, how could he not be? Yeah, so 100%. He had to have been on the hot seat. He got fired. And once that decision was made to fire Jim Montgomery, the decision was confirmed right away by the Blues. Hey, okay, we're moving on from Drew Bannister and we're bringing in Jim Montgomery. If it was later in the year, if there were 20 games left in the season versus 20 games into the season, then maybe you wait till the summer to make that decision or to hire Jim Montgomery or to move on from Drew Bannister, however you want to look at it. But you still got so much runway left, and you had to have thought, hey, listen, if we bring a new coach in and he's able to get this team playing the right way and getting them moving in the right direction, then there is time to catch up and get back into the playoffs. And the Blues are right there right now. They're at 28 points. They're tied with Colorado and just 4 points behind Dallas. I think Dallas has a couple of games in hand, and Dallas obviously a great team, and there's several games over 500. But the Blues are over 500 now with points in 5 straight. So this is a real positive, what's going on, and there is absolutely plenty of time for the Blues to solidify themselves as a playoff team. Somebody asked me today, would they look to do something come trade deadline time if they're in the playoffs? And my answer was absolutely. If they feel like they're good enough to do something come playoff time, and win a round, if they're good enough to advance into the playoffs, then I don't think Doug Armstrong would hesitate whatsoever and look to make a possible move to add to the roster. Now, if it goes the other way and they really struggle and they fall completely off, then you're talking about moving on from some players too. Justin Falk hasn't played the last couple of games. You had Scotty Perunovich in there once again last night. He only played 10 minutes. I think P.O. Joseph only played 7 minutes in the game, and this is not what we're used to seeing from the Blues in terms of how they rotate their defensemen. Usually all 6 defensemen are on a regular rotation, and they're all playing minutes. They're not all playing 20 minutes, but they're all playing, north of 12 or 11. But Perunovich did not have a great game last night. He made a couple of nice passes, which he can do. I mean, he sees the ice very well, and he can distribute the puck. I don't think there's any question that he is a good player when the puck's on his stick, but defending is an issue. He got beat behind the goal line. I think he was directly responsible really for 2 of the goals where he lost puck battles below the goal line behind the net, where the puck ended up coming out to the front of Jordan Binnington and Calgary was able to score twice on plays like that. So anyway, Perunovich, it is what it is. You get Nick Leddy back, and I like Perunovich, don't get me wrong. I'm not chirping him whatsoever. But when you get Nick Leddy back, and probably Falk too, right? Then all of a sudden, you kind of have your top 6 solidified, and they can roll. Getting Broberg back is just such a difference maker for this team, just in terms of his ability to skate. Yeah, we all know he's a skater, and when you ask right off the bat, what is Philip Broberg? I think any hockey person initially is going to say, well, skating. He's a skater. But he's so good with the puck on his stick, too. And he's got great instincts offensively. He's a guy that I will look at for Sweden in the Olympics next year. His injury probably set him back this season. There's not a ton of body of work for his resume as an NHL player, although he played the playoffs last year for Edmonton, played every game in the Stanley Cup final. And so there's plenty to see. I mean, the Blues obviously saw it, and that's why they signed him to the offer sheet. But he is so good with the puck on his stick. He's got great vision, great playmaking ability. Had 2 more assists last night. He's been a plus player, or even, I think, in every game except 2 this season. So it's great to see. Dylan Holloway is another guy that is just standing out right now. He's got points in 5 straight, maybe 6 straight. 8 points in his last 5. He's had a couple games in there with multi-points. Man, I mean, he's shooting the puck well. He's confident with the puck on his stick. We all know that he can skate as well, but he's getting himself in position to score, which I think obviously is huge. He's getting open in the right areas. He's establishing some pretty good chemistry with Braden Shen. They've got Jordan Kyrou on that line. He and Kyrou has some decent chemistry off the rush. Kyrou didn't have a shot on goal last night. Didn't have any points. He had a good game in the previous game against Winnipeg. You'd like to see Kyrou put a stretch of good games, some quality games together, because he wasn't great in the last home game either, before they set off on this road trip. But he had a real good game in Winnipeg, just okay last night. And we'll see what he can do the rest of this road trip. Maybe plays a good game against Edmonton, hopefully, and can finish it off in style against the Vancouver Canucks. But Holloway's playing some great hockey right now. They just look like a different team. It's almost like the season started over for the St. Louis Blues. And we've seen this movie before. And immediately you guys are all thinking I'm talking about Craig Berube. And yeah, okay, I'm talking about Berube. But at the same time, I'm also talking about Andy Murray when he took over. I mean, the team went on a run when he took over. They almost made the playoffs, and they made the playoffs the following year. I want to say Ken Hitchcock won the Jack Adams Trophy when he took over. The team went on to win a playoff round after Mike Yeo took over. And then we know what happened with Chief. They go on to win the Stanley Cup, and now we're seeing it with Jim Montgomery. The biggest challenge for Montgomery is going to be next season, I think. He's got a full training camp, and, you start fresh. Right now he's got them moving in the right direction. He's hitting all the right buttons. One thing Montgomery's always been good at is the way his team plays defensively and how they conduct themselves inside their own end. His teams have always ranked near the top in a lot of the important defensive categories. And right now, the Blues are doing a pretty good job defensively, keeping teams, pretty much at 2 goals or less in every game. I know they didn't do that last night, but I think coming into last night, they'd given up, 6 goals in the 4 games since he arrived. And that included 1 shutout by Jordan Binnington. So, Binnington's on top of his game right now. Hofer is back, now playing on top of his game. There was a stretch where Hofer wasn't playing great. And I said coming into the season, I said, the Blues may have the best 1-2 punch in the league. And then people were coming after me and saying, what are you talking about? Hofer's struggling. Well, now he's gotten back-to-back wins over the Rangers in Winnipeg in his last 2 starts. So he looks like he's trending in the right direction. Speaking of the Rangers, real quick, we'll get into this with Jamal as well. But apparently they're going to put Jacob Trouba on waivers. Maybe there's a team ready to pounce on the physical defenseman. They've been trying to move on from him. He won't waive his no trade, so basically this is the way they're handling it, saying, hey, you don't want to waive your no trade, then we'll just put you on waivers, and that'll be our way of moving on from Jacob Trouba. People love Trouba. I don't love Trouba. He stands out because of the physicality and his ability to deliver hits. He's a physical player, and you don't see too many defensemen who play that style anymore. So immediately he's going to stand out. But the Rangers, man, they're just in shambles. What is going on with the New York Rangers? Weren't they considered like the first 2 weeks of the season? Everyone's like, oh, the Rangers, this is the year they're going to win the cup. Now they're just trying to survive. They're on life support in a way. And everyone's kind of panicking. All right, lots to get into with Doug Armstrong. We'll do that here coming up in just a couple of minutes. First Community brings us Hockey Sense live from Half Coast Studios. Each and every week, you know that. You already know about First Community, but you may not know. They've been calling St. Louis home since 1934. 90 years, man. Can you imagine that? I mean, they are doing something right. Over 400,000 members do their banking with First Community, but it's not really a bank. And you may think I'm crazy when I say that, but it really isn't a bank. It's a credit union, which is a non-for-profit financial cooperative. It's a non-for-profit financial co-op, basically. So if you have an account at First Community, then you're automatically a member. You're part of the bigger family over there at First Community. If you're not a member yet, you should join. It takes only $1 to open up an account as long as you qualify for membership. First Community has branches all over the place. You can't miss it. Check it out. Happy 90th anniversary to First Community, firstcommunity.com, and sign your son or daughter up for Little Blues as well. The best way to introduce your son or daughter to the great game of ice hockey. Four Hands Brewing Company, taking St. Louis to the next level, one craft beer at a time. They are absolutely incredible. They got all the year-round beers, the seasonal beers. Check out that Cam and Strick podcast, Mango Lemonade Hard Seltzer. Nobody does it better than Four Hands. It's the best hard seltzer on the market, by the way, this Mango Lemonade. Unbelievable. It's so good. So check that out. Mango Lemonade, Cam and Strick podcast Hard Seltzer. Anywhere you get your Four Hands Brewing Company products, you can pick it up at the grocery store. You can go to any of their tasting rooms. They've got the incredible tasting room in downtown St. Louis, 1220 South 8th Street. The beautiful facility out there in Chesterfield. I went out to that one in Kirkwood with my wife a few weeks ago. That is a great date night. Head out there. They've got food from Peacemaker. You can't go wrong. Kevin Lemp Company just flat out getting it done with Four Hands Brewing Company. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Man. Where do we start with Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop? Well, I'll start with downloading the app. That's where you start. Download the app and do it today with our friends over there at Dirt Cheap Fun. Get all your paper goods too, man. If you've got those holiday parties that you're hosting or you're helping to plan, school parties, they got everything, paper goods, everything. Don't sleep on that. So it's not just the beer, wine, and booze. They've got all the party supplies over there at Dirt Cheap as well. So check that out. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop, baby. Blue Note Roofing, our main man, David Novak. Big shout out to David. He just celebrated his birthday. One of the biggest blues fans you'll find and a tremendous roofer as well. Arguably the best roofer in the region. Blue Note Roofing, man. They do it all. Gutters, soffit, fascia, windows. Obviously, roofing's his bread and butter. Give him a call today, 314-920-5713. And let him take your roofing to the next level. Hey, listen, there are some insurance companies out there that if your roof is more than 10 years old, your insurance will not pay for it. So if you're having roof issues right now and say your roof is 8 or 9 years of age, don't wait because your insurance company isn't going to pay for it. When you need to replace it now. Call David Novak today. Wish him a happy birthday. Talk pucks with him and get your roof fixed. 314-920-5713 for David Novak. Let's take a break. We'll come back with Doug Armstrong. I'm looking forward to that. So much to get into with Army. He joins me next on this edition of Hockey Sense. We're live at the Half Coast Studios. Always great to be with you. Always great to be with you as the show is brought to you by First Community, baby. I'm Andy Strickland. Don't go anywhere. All right, great to have Doug Armstrong with us, Blues president and general manager. I know you've been busy, Army. So much going on over the course of the last few weeks, and we really haven't had a chance to catch up with you. How has it been for you the last month or so, man? You've been really busy.
It's been great. I enjoy the travel. I enjoy watching the games. Obviously, we had a really difficult decision to make with changing coaches. Have a lot of respect for Drew. Thought he was, doing a good job learning as we were going. But the opportunity to get someone of Monty's caliber to come to our city and to come for a long time was too much to pass up. But that was a difficult part. But out watching games and enjoying that part of it's been a great month.
You could have gone out and gotten a retread in the off season before you decided to bring back Drew Bannister. But the decision for a head coach, right, is so important in terms of what you're going to do, and you don't want to marry yourself to another coach or anybody, players, same thing, if you're not 100% sold on them. So it was the right decision for the organization at the time, right, to bring back Drew Bannister. And then things change all the time because a guy like Jim Montgomery, who and it's always important to bring in somebody probably who it gives you an advantage there. He wasn't available, right? So the whole process just kind of takes on a life of its own, doesn't it?
It does, and I think you want to, courses for courses. You want to have the right coach that's sharing the philosophy of where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. And some coaches, some of the best coaches are win every night mode. Everything is about that night, and we're not there as an organization. We obviously, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I want to win, but we do want to see how players like Bolduc play, and watching Drew last year working with these younger guys, putting Dean in the lineup, putting Prudovich in the lineup, putting Bolduc in the lineup. I understood that he and I were on the same page as far as putting those players in. And when I looked at the available coaches this summer, that I just felt that Drew had all the intangibles of what we were looking for. And then really, quite honestly, Monty became available, and he had that plus a wealth of experience, and it just made it a natural move for us. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're working with people that share your values and your vision, and it doesn't mean that because you don't hire them that they have the wrong values or vision, that they just don't match up with yours.
I never asked you this, but when Monty was here as an assistant, and you guys had a lot of success with him here as an assistant, he's working with Chief. You knew you were letting a good coach go, right? But you couldn't stop him. He got an opportunity to go be a head coach. You had a head coach here in Craig Berube, but was that tough letting a guy of his caliber and just him personally letting him get away from the organization at the time?
Actually, not at all. I mean, because I was there. I was an assistant before. I work with other assistants that go on. We strive to be the best you could be in our industry, and if you're an assistant coach, do you want to be a head coach? So no, I understood what we were losing, but I gotta say, out of 100%, I had 0% wish it didn't happen for him, because that's what we all strive to be, is the best we can be in our industry. So I knew they were getting a really good coach, but it never once would have crossed my mind not to make sure that he had the chance to fulfill his goals.
I've said this to a lot of people that it almost feels like the season just started over. It started fresh. Being at practice last week, you could just feel the energy. You look at the way Robert Thomas played last night. It may have been his best game of the season, and obviously, he had the injury. Broberg back in the lineup now, obviously, is such a difference maker. But what is the biggest difference you're seeing over the course of the last 5 games?
Well, I would say that's where I felt. I thought it was unfortunate for Drew. Is the biggest difference is Broberg and Thomas.
They make a difference.
Put one of your, you can put him anywhere between your number 1 and 3 defensemen on our team, the way he's playing right now, and unequivocally your number 1 center, and you take them away for a month. You can survive that over a few games. You can't survive that over the long haul. And you have to find different ways. And I thought they did a good job of, but obviously we weren't scoring a lot of goals with those guys out. Now they're back. They're helping drive offense, not only when they're not getting the statistical point on it, but they're driving the play, and now they are getting the statistical points also. So I think that the biggest difference is that. They're also, I think, anytime there's a change, everyone's spidey senses get heightened. Uh, you just have to look in the mirror. You know that they have to impress a new coach. And what Alexander Steen and I talked about over the last few days is making sure that we're building the foundation. So when the honeymoon phase wears off and the marriage starts, that we're up and running.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up, because I talked about that in the first segment too, because we've seen this movie before. Although this is an established coach and you've got good players, I think the team is kind of playing closer to who we thought that they would be coming into the season based on how they're playing the last 5 games. And they were underachieving, I think, to an extent prior to that. But you talked about some of the injuries. But we've seen this even when Davis Payne was hired. They went on a run and he got a contract extension. Andy Murray, they went on a run. They made the playoffs the next year. Hitch had a lot of success. Mike Yeo won a playoff round. Chief, obviously, we all know what he did. So when does this period stop in terms of what you're talking about, where the honeymoon ends and the marriage begins?
I would say 100% the absolute latest of the next training camp. Like, now we could carry this happy wave, It's when the wave hits the shore and you got to paddle back out when it ends, and losses make that happen. The reality is, like, the honeymoon never ended that year when Craig came in. Once we started to win games, we never lost extended periods. And but the next year is when it really started. We had the, not I would say the hangover, but we had to deal with being a champion. That's a high class ball. Don't get me wrong. But this is gonna continue until we hit rough patches of losses, and then it becomes back to the normal feelings that you have. I'm hoping it lasts for a long time. But the absolute latest it's gonna turn is next training camp, and I hope it doesn't turn on anytime soon. But it's going to happen. This is
When you study Jim Montgomery, I mean, his teams have always ranked high in a lot of the important defensive categories. And, the first 4 games, you guys give up 6 goals. So obviously you're defending better. Only 23 goals, shots against, I think, against Winnipeg last night. I think a little more volume for Calgary. But 2 of your defensemen didn't play a ton last night. So a lot of minutes for your top 4. But you still have a couple of key players that are out. Where do things stand with guys like Letty, Falk? I mean, could we see both these guys returning relatively soon? And are you deeper defensively than maybe you thought you would be?
well, I don't know because we haven't been healthy yet. That's the hard part. Like you talk about the top 4. Well, Kessel's now a top 4. He hasn't played those minutes all year long. Now he goes from anywhere 11 to 15 to 22 the other night, or close to 21 and something in Winnipeg. So guys are getting pushed, and quite honestly, like thank God we signed Suter. Like the reality is, we thought, we didn't know we were getting Broberg. We thought he would help stabilize our left side. I didn't know where he was going to play. I actually, when we talked to him, you're going to play with Falk, but we're going to run 60. We're going to run 6 pair, and he's come in. He's been a godsend for us, and not his maturity, just his gamesmanship on the ice it's what you remember when you deal with veteran players. The scrums that he gets in, the subtle things he does in a scrum, the ability to work the officials, the ability to motivate his teammates, the ability to kill time on the clock, taking extra length on the shifts, the changes. He's just I just love watching those nuances that he brings to the game, because they only come with around 1,500 games played, but it's really fun to watch all the stuff that he does, help you push through a game.
Well, it's the slashes to the back of the legs as he's skating up the ice too. And Army, when you played 1,500 games, you can probably get away with some of that stuff too, right? The referees are, hey, that's Ryan Suter. They're just going to let it go.
Well, if you're 1 year a pro, the guy's going to look back and say, "Who are you?" Like that's when you're marking your turf. His turf is marked, so it's not going. Like, a lot of guys are going to say something, but they're not going to act like if he had done this 15 years ago. Guys just act differently. So that's the gamesmanship that he has. It's been very impressive to watch, and I hope our younger players, I hope everybody in your organization is watching that. That's what maturity looks like.
And it's there's no risk in the signing either. I know you've got to pay some bonuses, which you'll be happy to pay based on his role on the team. He's got a major role on this team right now, but there's no risk to signing these guys. You think general managers and just you in general will look differently at some of these veteran guys who might be available, just looking to and willing to play for the minimum, on a 1-year deal, aging players late in their careers?
I think managers have been there for the last few years like that. Those are your July 15th signings.
Yeah.
Like no player is looking to do this on July 1st. They're hoping to get a little more term, a little more money, a little more of this, a little more of that. But when the market settles in, then they do that. So I think it's been there for a while. We got Uppy here for a while ago and things like that. I think you can get different guys. It's getting the right guys is the key.
Yeah. He's been better than advertised, like you said. Bolduc, real quick. I mean, see him score last night. Like, those are the goals that you want to see him score, because those are the type of goals that he scored prior to coming to St. Louis, and junior and whatever, using his shot and whatnot. It takes time, right, for guys to get comfortable. Like, is it hard as a manager to not lose patience when first round picks aren't scoring and just kind of allow them to settle in because he's looking more and more comfortable with each game?
Yeah, I would say it's almost the opposite, Andy. It's easy for the manager. The manager's job is to work with the coaching staff and get them to understand, or not understand, accept the longer term vision. And one of the things that was taught to me early is like, what are you willing to put up with on October, November to have a better team in February? You're willing to put up with what, not put up with, but grow through what Bolduc did in October and November. Now he's starting to have success, and I think we're going to be a better team because of what Drew Bannister did in October and November, of keeping him in the lineup. Trust me, there's a lot of whispers. You hear a lot of whispers. Let's send him down to the minors. Let's get him up and running. Let's get him scoring. And then that's just an indication that tonight's team is more important than what's in February. And player X is more mature and he's not going to make that mistake. Like, as a manager, you see the glass half full. You see that mistake is not going to happen the second time in February or December. It's going to turn into goals. So I thought Drew did a great job of understanding, and that's why I said I enjoyed working with Drew, and I was excited to work with Drew, is because he bought into the vision of living with mistakes today for tomorrow. And I think we're seeing that in Boldy now. Now he has to continue to do it. It takes a long time to build a reputation in the NHL, and these goals are great now. He's just got to continue. The goals have to continue, and then the rest of the game still needs to grow for him away from the puck. But I give Monty credit for putting him in those situations, and I gave Drew credit for it, and I give Boldy the utmost credit for taking advantage of it.
And one more thing about Monty real quick. And listen, I've known Monty for a long time, back to when I was working at a pizza restaurant here in town, and he was close with the family. He was an NHL player at the time, and he's so interesting to talk to even back then, because he loved the game. And I was working with the River Otters when he played with the Missouri River Otters in the UHL as a player coach. When did you first hear about him, and when did he first kind of become a guy that was projecting to become an NHL head coach? And when you talked to him a few weeks ago, like, was there much selling that went into it, or was he ready to go right off the bat? And the third part of the question is, Army, like, when you don't see too many coaches go from one bench to the next in the same season. Is this the first time you've ever done that? And was there ever any concern that a coach is truly ready to turn the page and can recreate that energy necessary to lead a team when you're coaching with one team one day and then another team just a few days later?
Yeah, you'll have to refresh me on the questions as I go through. Number one was I think what he did in the USHL got people's attention, like John Cooper did.
Yeah,
a lot of similarities. John had a lot of success there, and you start checking off championships. And the term that I really enjoy, and I don't hear it enough, is like, he's a serial winner. Yeah. You want to be around serial winners. So then he goes to Denver, wins there. Now all of a sudden, it's either take that jump, and he had the ability to go from there to an NHL head coach, or just stay in Denver, because he was very comfortable there.
Yeah.
He didn't have to go to the American League to become a head coach to get to the NHL. But I would say his success he had in the USHL got everyone's attention, followed that up with success in Denver. Now he's a real coach. And, an NHL head coach or an NHL manager would say, yeah, that's great. Why don't you go to the American League? And he didn't need to do that. Once you start having success, you can dictate where you want to go and what your comfort level is. And I understand that, quite honestly, at that level, because move your family USHL, move your family Denver, move your family. Being able to go from Denver right to the NHL just takes away a move. Because let's say he had gone to the AHL and had great success in 3 years, then he gets the NHL job. That's another move. And I think that's something that people don't, and I don't think they should spend a lot of time on it, but when you have a young family, that's 4 moves in 12 years, and that's from doing everything right.
Yeah.
And if you moved a family, it's not the easiest thing to do, and it's not like you're moving them to a different part of the city. You're usually moving to a different part of the country.
Yeah.
And so question one, that's when his name became into that coaching grouping bucket of, okay, we're looking for a coach. Where does he fit in? And then I think how the conversation with him about turning the page, I think he didn't need to work this year. And then he and I talked about that, and I asked him, I said, like, you have a good resume. You're going to work again. You really need, before we get too far down this path, because it's not fair to me, quite honestly, to go down this path. And then you and your wife say, you know what, that's great, but I've never spent a Christmas at home. I have never done this with my kids. I'm going to take the rest of this year on the Bruins dime and then enjoy my family. And then I'm going to be coaching again next year. And so I give Monty a ton of credit, because he understood that was important for me, not to get too vested in the process if he wasn't ready to coach. And so he answered that question quickly. I think part of it too, Andy, was understanding St. Louis, playing here. More importantly, his wife's from here, his kids have lived here. I'm not sure he would have taken this job in another city, because it might not have been as easy to transition for him. So I think that really, the synergy of the organization, of the city, of his family background, made this very easy to do. But also, he's a coach, and coaches coach. That's what they do. And I would guarantee that if he had stayed in Boston, he'd be on the ice with his team coaching. That's what he does. That's his passion. That's his home. That's his comfort zone.
Yeah, no, it was a perfect storm for everybody. Last thing about the Blues before I move on real quick to Hockey Canada, but Dylan Holloway, what are you seeing him specifically? I think he's got points in 5 straight, 8 points in his last 5, something like that. He's had a couple of multi-point games. He's getting himself open. You always talk about his skating, but now you're seeing that confidence offensively come along with the skating. And what are you seeing from him right now?
Yeah, probably the last thing. There's probably 2 or 3 players, maybe 1 or 2 on a team that you want to go to the score sheet to find out if they had a good game. They're a one-trick pony. So Holly's not that. So when we watch the games for him, we want to watch his detail part of the games, his ability to manage the ice, his ability to put the pucks in the right areas, his ability to support. With a player like Holloway, it's the nuances of the game that we appreciate, and his ability to play up and down the lineup is very important for us too. Like, he's played whether first, second, third line center or first, second, third line left wing. He gives the coach a lot of different options, and he's been playing very well right here for us.
Yeah, no, I could ask you, Army, about every player on the roster. I'm not going to. Your goaltenders are both trending in the right direction right now too, which is a real positive. All right, Hockey Canada. And I heard some criticism yesterday on Hockey Canada about the Parayko decision. People pushing, Tanev out of Toronto with the Maple Leafs. What was it about Parayko that kind of got him over the edge, at least in your opinion? I know you are in charge of the Olympic team and you have a huge say here with the Four Nations, but what were you saying internally to make a case for Parayko, or did you not have to push that much for Parayko?
Well, I think it's an interesting, doing this with different people over the years. What the rhythm is that when you put your list in, you put players from your own team on there, and you explain who they are, and then you ask the other guys to come in and support that decision, right or wrong. Like, you have to you're building a team so you have to tell them they're what they're proficient at and what they're deficient at. And so the players that I proposed to our group, and this group scouted about 180 games live. And so this decision was made by, it's a group of 5 of us. But the decision basically on a guy from your own team is made by 4 other people, not you.
Okay.
And because you you human nature is you either see things too well for a player, and because you're there, you're living it every day. And but when Don Sweeney or Jimmy Nill or Julian Friesborg, Kyle Dubas came in and watched play, I said, "Here are the guys that I think you should focus in on," and they would do the reports, and then we would get together. And when they talked about Pittsburgh players, Kyle wouldn't say anything. When they talked about St. Louis players, I wouldn't say anything. You would answer questions that they gave you, but you wouldn't. It's not to push to get a guy. There's no ego in this or to push a guy to get on there. And I think the Tanev thing isn't a criticism on Parayko. It's how well Tanev's playing, and I look at the glass half full. Like there's a wealth of players that you have to choose from, and not they're all not going to make the team. I actually did an exercise yesterday that I really enjoyed. It's the first time I've done it. I put an A and B team together, and I put, okay, first pick on team A, then I went to team B. So it wasn't taking 23 players and then the next 23. It was taking 46 players and doing a draft, A, B, A, B, A, B. Both those teams are pretty darn good.
That's Canada for you.
Yeah.
But Parayko, texting with him the other day, like he's so honored by this Army. I don't know if you were the one that got to deliver the news to him. If you were, and you've known him since he was a kid, like how proud are you of his development as a player, and what was that moment like to tell him that he made the team?
I did get to tell our two players that they made the team, and it was a privilege for me to do that. Colton and I quick story on Colton. So he was in college hockey, and we were a really big team that year. And Philadelphia had some players that we really liked. And I said, well, they mentioned Parayko. I said, well, I'm going to go to Bowling Green with Tim Taylor, and I'll let you know. And Shel Samuelson was there, and Colton, they win the faceout. He goes behind the net, picks the puck, goes down all the way down, gets a scoring chance. They come down, he kills 2 plays, and I went to Shel like with the 50 member and said, "You can stay here, you can leave if you want. We're not trading him." And I called Hexy up and said, "Buddy, we're not trading him. Like he's too big of what we want to do." And then you play that forward to winning a championship with him and now being part of this team. I think he's going to be what he does so well. Then he kills plays against top players, and there may be deficiencies in his game. Well, there's deficiencies in everyone's game, but his ability to kill plays defensively, his ability to have these skating assets to take on the rush of an Eichel, of a Matthews, of these guys is very important for us. And again, you're not building an all-star team. You're building a team to play in a major event. And you look at the Bouwmeester Pietrangelo pair from the Olympics and the World Cup. Very, very good pair, and that's what I think Donnie and Coop and the other guys are trying to build as a team. And just the benefit of the Canadian team, it's like even some of the forwards, while you left this guy or that guy off to take, the players that we took that they deem shouldn't be on the team average a point a game. So it's not like it's a embarrassment of riches, but at the end of the day, you either win or you lose. That's all they care about. And if we win, no one's going to say a word, and if we lose, everybody's going to be under the microscope, and that's working for Team Canada. But that's why we all want to do it.
Yeah. I got to see your winning percentage with Colton Parayko in the lineup, because he's been here since 2016. You guys went to the conference final that year, so you won a lot of games with him in the lineup since he's gotten here, no question. Was Robert Thomas? I know some guys are considered alternates. Like, would he possibly be part of that group? The injury didn't help his case this year.
The injury really cost him. To be honest, we all did the mocks in the summer. What we did was a six line mocks, and he was on everybody's 6 lines. Like he's right there now. The injury hurt, because we were judging on what came out of here, and 2 things. One is, I consider Robert a great player, and the injury, put other guys ahead of him. But I did say that the likelihood of 23 players from 4 teams all playing in this event is about 0%. So, and what we're going to do at Hockey Canada is now continue to evaluate players, and he would be on that evaluation process. And but you're going to replace an apple with an apple, or the same type of guy. But what's good, what works in Robert's favor is his ability to play center, and can play the wing. He can move over there. His face-off percentage, and he can play up and down the line. Kill penalties, big face-offs. He's right there. But I did say to him that the team you want to make is the next one. Not nothing against the 4 nations, but the team you want to make is the next one, and he's got a long runway to go ahead. But I'm really proud of Robert. I guess it's not for you to be proud of these guys, like they're not my sons, but we're both the same age. I'm proud of his development on and off the ice. The desire to be the man, that's hard. Like, everybody can say they want to be the man, but there's pressure being the man, and he thrives under it, and he wants that. His life could never be in a better spot. They just had a child, got a beautiful wife. They're getting married soon, a beautiful partner, a kid, playing great hockey, making lots of money, or on the cusp of making like international teams. He's in a great spot, and it's only because he's earning that, not that it's given to him. So that's one where that's a guy that when they asked about Robert Thomas, I tell the staff that, and they got to commit, and they got to say, that's when you're seeing through rose-colored glasses that he's not that good, or you're right. That's why we have other people come in to verify one guy's opinion, because I'm a massive fan.
Yeah. No, he had a hell of a game last night. And you know what, Army? I loved his mentality in overtime, how he attacked, because obviously a couple games ago, similar situation against Philadelphia, but his mentality didn't change in the overtime session, and obviously created the game winner by Parayko. And there's good players on every team, that didn't make. There's good players on Team USA that are left off, high-profile names. You think Broberg's a guy, real quick, I'm going to leave you with this, who could play his way onto the Olympic team for Sweden?
Yeah, I think he could play his way onto the 4 nations team. Again, he's got to be one of those players that, again, I'm not working for Sweden, but his body of work this year, if he plays like that for 2 months, they're going to have to say, you know what, we got to consider him. Now, whether he makes it or not, but I'm sure he's in their conversations now, and he will be. And the 4 nations is going to do a lot. They're going to say, okay, this guy, we got to keep on the radar for the next one. This guy didn't before. Like the 4 nations is an evaluation for the next event.
Yeah.
And I think Broby's, as I think we said earlier, like he's 1, 2, or 3 on our team. I don't know where he is on the back end, but that's pretty high praise for a guy that's been here such a short period of time.
Yeah. Depends on the game if he's 1, 2, or 3, Army.
Yeah. But that's so that's how we come on.
And the game that he's a 3, it didn't mean he had a bad game, right? So
No, just mean he had the Parayko or
whoever.
But he's in that grouping where, well, he has to be a good player for us to be a good team.
Yeah.
That and like Thomas, like Kyrou, like there's certain players that, and I'm a real believer, Andy, it can go anywhere between 20 and 30%. When those guys play good on any given team, that team usually gets a point.
Yeah.
When those guys don't play good, then someone that doesn't do it normally has to outperform for any given night. And he's one of those guys that, for us to be a good team on a regular basis, he has to be a good player on a regular basis.
I know. And listen, Sidney Crosby didn't make it when, I think, 2006, right? He had 102 points that year. It's tough to make that route. You got to make decisions. I know a lot of people were focused on Bedard and stuff like that, but you look at the Canada roster, and I would love to see what the second Canada team would look like and how they would do in a tournament like this, because
Well, you should do that exercise I did, like take and just go A, B, and that's taken. It's a good team, but again, this is the beauty of working, and I'm sure Billy feels the same way, or maybe not there yet, but they will very soon. their expectation is to win. It's nothing else. I know Bill Guerin well. His expectation is to win, and she'll be like, people will be held accountable to the success and failure rate. That I've always said, work for Hockey Canada is one of the best. It's the most enjoyable Russian roulette you can play.
Yeah.
Because once they lose, you're done. You know, but until you lose, it's a blast.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it doesn't have the same feel maybe because it's not an Olympic, it's not a World Cup, but I think once you, every second of it, Army, you know what I mean? To watch the games.
Yeah, I think it's because it's gives us a view into Italy, which really pulls it together. You know, it's best on best, and if we had best on best 2 or 3 years ago, you know, then this really wouldn't be that exciting. You know, a 14 tournament.
Yeah.
But we haven't had best on best in a long time. There's a whole new whack of players. You know, like I look at Team Canada. You got Crosby and you got Petro. You know, you don't have a lot of guys that played in 2016. That's the last best on best. And so there's, and the one thing that's exciting for me to watch is the Americans, because I follow the program. I had a lot of friends that had kids playing it. Like that's America's advantage. They have these kids that have played together. I heard McElroy talk about the 97s. Like, these guys, you know, had fun. They matured. They became young adults together in Ann Arbor at 17 and 18.
Mhm.
Like, it's the advantage they have now, because the Canadians don't have that. You know, they don't have that. They don't have that program where their best players play together for 2 years, like they do there. I just think it's going to be a great tournament. I think the real great tournament's going to be the next one, because then you're bringing in all the different countries, but this is going to be great for hockey.
Yeah, I'll miss not seeing Russia, for example. I want to see Kucherov and Vasilevsky and even Ovi and all these guys, man, take on Crosby and McKinnon and McDavid. Like, that would be incredible to watch. So
even the German team's got so many, like hockey's in a great spot, and I, you know, as I said, I'm looking forward to the Four Nations for what it is, but I'm looking forward to the Olympics when it is again. The Olympics, have a company. It's all the countries, and B, that's the only event where you're only a small part of a way bigger team. Whether you're American, a Russian, a Canadian, a Finn, a Swede, like there were so many other athletes that you're just a small part of something bigger, and it's hard to put into words how humbling that is, because usually you're the big fish in the pond in the NHL. There you're just another fish in a way bigger pond.
yeah, well, it's such an honor for you to lead Hockey Canada. If I would have told you when you were 10 years old, Army, 12 years old, you'd be the general manager of Hockey Canada in the Olympics, you wouldn't have believed me, probably.
You told me to be the general manager in the AHL, I would have believed you.
Good stuff, man. I hope you guys continue it on this road trip, and we'll see you soon.
Andy, thanks for having me on, and also to yourself and all the listeners, happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays to you. Thanks, Army. I appreciate it as always.
All right, pal.
Take care. That's Doug Armstrong. Brought to you by Lordo's Diamonds. Get it today, and stop and say hi to Mike and Jimmy Lordo. LordosDiamonds.com. Get that special someone in your life something special. Right there in the heart of the dew, right next to Truffles. Stop on in, say hello today, and if you've got a $500 budget or a $100,000 budget, they'll take care of you. Lordo's Diamonds. Nobody does it better than Lordo's. Arco Construction is taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. They built that beautiful rink out there in Chesterfield, the beautiful rink over in Maryland Heights. They have so much going on over there at Arco Construction. John Comlos, Jeff Cook, everybody, Putt Shack, Topgolf. They are getting it done in a big way. All right, Jamal Mayers, we made him wait way too long. We're bringing in Jammer next here on Hockey Sense. Brought to you by First Community. Don't go anywhere. All right, Jamal Mayers in the house. Joins us each and every week here on Hockey Sense. Great to have you back in studio.
Nice to be here.
Brought to you by Dobbs Tires and Auto Centers, as well as the Bartolino's family of restaurants, Jamal.
Yes.
Go to Dobbs.com. Bartolino's, they got the new place out there in Twin Oaks, right?
Yeah, it's, you know, I went there for my 50th birthday celebration. I know I don't look 50, but hold your comments. But unbelievable atmosphere. Place looked amazing. Food was fantastic. It was great atmosphere that they've created there.
I got to ask you this, and I didn't even tell you I was going to ask you about this, but Luke Richardson gets fired in Chicago, and you as a guy who has Chicago ties, how much of that do you think has to do with Bedard not producing at a superstar level? Maybe the embarrassment, if you want to even call it that. I don't think he should be embarrassed by not making Hockey Canada, but everyone kind of talking about when he doesn't make it, they're pointing out his struggles this season. You had Richardson come out and make a comment the other day after he scored his first goal in X number of games, and he said something like, it's great if you score one, but you can't be on the ice for 2 against at the same time. You know what I mean? So did he deserve to be fired, do you think? I mean, I never understand when you're a rebuild and you fire a coach 20-plus games in. Are you expecting the team to win? Are you just looking at different trends? How do you evaluate that?
Quite frankly, I look at it as job preservation by management. Look at the roster. What did they expect was going to happen this year? They have no one for him to play with. Luke Richardson is a great coach that was left on an island with not enough tools. And to evaluate your group that you should have been further along, I think is a gross miscalculation of where you are as a team and what the expectations should have been. And I think at times, I always say it, doesn't matter if you're on a losing team, things, I can't swear, but the things go downstream. And so
you can if you wanted.
What ends up happening is management blames the coaches blame the players blame the coaches. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm not playing. Like, it all goes down, and everyone's in job preservation mode in that regard. So perhaps they thought or were told to the higher ups that we're going to be further along, and that wasn't happening, and someone had to answer for it, and it couldn't. When it's not the roster construction, which is the managers, then you fire the coach.
Yeah. Well, and Kyle Davidson is not Doug Armstrong. He doesn't have the leash that a guy like Army has, who's got 5 more years on his contract too, and a lot of success, and he's won a Stanley Cup, and so it's not evaluated the same. So at some point, you're going to start looking at Kyle Davidson too, because by firing the coach, I think you're saying we expect to be better. So now they don't start winning, then where do you turn your attention to? They're bringing up the American League coach on an interim basis, so we'll see where this goes. But you're right. I mean, they've signed a bunch of veteran guys to 1-year deals, and they're hoping to get something out of these guys, and but not much for Connor Bedard.
Yeah, but listen,
to play with.
Who's their second leading scorer?
I would have to look.
I thought I was right, and I just looked. I am right in my head. It was Donato.
Yeah, okay.
That's your second leading scorer.
Who's the leading scorer?
Bedard with 19 points. Got 5 goals. Donato has 10. Like, Nick Foligno has 7. I'm sorry. Like, these are your top forwards. Bedard, who's you got to play with? Donato, Teravainen, Foligno, Craig Smith, Taylor Hall, Bertuzzi.
I know.
Really?
I know.
Okay, come on.
Yeah, they brought in Bertuzzi too, Patty Maroon. I know. Patty Maroon, by the way, I said it earlier, 800 games, so that's quite the accomplishment.
It is.
Honestly.
It's a lot of games.
I remember when he got to like 500, I was like, damn, he got to 500 games, and now here he is at 800. So, again, we'll give him another shout out. It's funny. It's interesting talking with Army in the previous segment about the honeymoon period with a coach, how it goes from honeymoon to eventually it becomes a marriage, right, between the player and the coach and the organization. They're in the honeymoon period right now, and they're playing really well. It's amazing. It's so predictable. You see this happening, but the Blues were underachieving. I don't think there's any other way to look at it. When you look at how they play right now, it certainly helps having Broberg back in the lineup and Robert Thomas back in the lineup. Without them, you just don't have players who can fill those holes.
I think you hit it on the head, but I'm come from a different era. I know that.
Yeah.
But I
Not much far removed, though.
I know, but let me just, I don't know how I'm going to say this properly, but I like coaches that have emotion. Presence. Have some swagger to them. We feed off of that on the bench. It's a long season. You need the energy. You need a kick in the behind. Not literally, figuratively. You need accountability. You need a guy who's upset at times, who feels the emotion that we feel, that has our back
Mm-hmm.
behind us, and you can feel it. I get that from Monty. I get that. He's passionate. You can see it in game. You can feel it in moments of the game. He recognizes the game. He clearly has changed some things. He disrupted some things in regard to the lines. He took Kyrou off.
Yeah.
And
He had Fox had taken offense his own faceoffs late in the game.
like, he's going to make those adjustments because he's a smart hockey person.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sustainable? I believe it is, because this, to me, you have to know the group. And it appears to me that this group responds to the emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of his skills, right? He's going to bring out the emotion, remind them of the importance, and always staying on task and keeping them dialed in. And I think that when you're able to do that, you find the energy. When you're able to do that, you slot guys in where they should be.
Mm-hmm.
They take pride in their roles in regard to, I'm going to be the checking guy. Sonny's going to want to, I'm going to be tough to play against. And then you give other guys opportunities that perhaps weren't getting it before.
Mm-hmm.
And then the challenge is going to be, how do you keep Kyrou happy, who had nothing, had donuts yesterday, but you won a big game?
Mm-hmm. And the game before, he was good, right?
Right.
In Winnipeg, scored a couple goals.
But that's the balance. And so that's the balance he's going to have to create, but winning makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's rooted in what I see from him is Army recognizing this group needed the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not taking anything away from the coaching that Bannister did and
Mm-hmm.
the coach that he is. I see why that emotion has had success.
Mm-hmm.
This group needed someone like that.
Yeah. Well, and he fell into their lap too. It was a perfect situation for both sides, for the coach and for the team to go out and get Jim Montgomery. Have you known him for a long time?
Yes. I mean,
We went to skate with you back in the summers and stuff like that, or
more I see him out than anything else. But those when we're 20 years ago, so 25 years ago. I mean, yeah, he's always been. I played against him in college.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Him in Korea, the 1 year we played in the.
Did you play them that year?
Yeah, we played them.
Did you?
At the Great Lakes.
And Scotty Pellerin was on that team too.
Yeah, we played them in. It was the year Korea had 100 points and won the.
And Marty had like 90 something.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We played them in L.A. I forget the tournament name, but yeah, we played them there that year. It was.
Garth Snow was the goalie.
Yeah, it was. They had
Who was on your team?
Dunham was their backup.
Who was on your team? Any other NHLers or no?
Joe Corvo.
Oh yeah, D-man, Ottawa.
Yep.
L.A. maybe.
Started in Carolina, I believe, maybe
Okay.
from Chicago. That might have been it.
Okay. Would you take a flyer on Jacob Trouba? Apparently they're putting him on waivers because he won't waive his no trade,
Okay.
and there's a team who apparently is gonna jump on him if available. I know he hits and everything, but there must be something that's missing that people don't see.
Well, what I don't. It's a very complex question, because what I don't understand is, why would you pick him up off waivers if you want the player? Make them eat some of the salary.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm sure those conversations have gone on though, and maybe they just can't come to an agreement, or
so you just
the Rangers want another player in return, or he just can't agree on a trade.
well then just let him eat him.
Mm-hmm.
Let him eat it.
And just wait.
I would not pick him up.
Say fine, okay, then go pay him.
Yeah.
Go play in the minors.
Yeah.
And then we'll take him when you take $2 million.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I think that, I don't know. That's what my play would be.
Yeah.
If I were GM.
Okay.
I
Right.
would not bite on that.
That's fair. Hockey Canada's roster. What do you like? What do you not like?
I like that they built a team. I like that they gave Cooper the autonomy to pick his players.
Mm-hmm.
I think that having played for Team Canada on 3 occasions, I think that having that continuity of, especially in the role players and knowing what they'll accept to be able to do, it's important knowing they'll be willing to do those things
Mm-hmm.
when you're picking the 11th, 12th, and 13th forward.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that I like the roster. I like that they built a hockey team. They didn't build an all-star team.
Yeah. Team USA, they're calling it the best team ever.
Well, that's an insult to 96.
I mean,
In
we
their
have a bunch of Hall of Famers in there.
Yeah. I mean, come on. But, you know, I think if you're looking talent-wise, it's a remarkable group. I think Canada would take their third goaltender as their number one.
Oh, probably.
You know, no disrespect to Binner. Look at the goalies they got.
Yeah.
U.S. has.
Would you take Swayman over Bennington?
No, maybe I'd take Binner would be 3, right? I think that's fair. Is that insulting?
No. Hellebuyck's 2-time Norris or Vezina. He may win the Vezina again this year.
That's, I mean, okay, I'm just saying, like, it's not like when we had Patrick Waugh.
Would you take Bennington over Ottinger?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason why is one.
Okay.
I put a lot of value in stock in a winner.
So Bennington would be the backup for Team USA.
Yes. There we go. And I know Hellebuyck hasn't won, but I mean.
And Demko's hurt and everything, so.
But I'm just saying, U.S. has a plethora of goaltenders. And
would you have taken Logan Thompson over that Montembeault? Logan Thompson.
No, I like the Montembeault. And I'll tell you why. I actually said Montembeault on Sportsnet.
Did you?
Those are the 3 goalies I picked. It's kind of funny. The reason why is I think you need to start to, if you envision, my opinion is this: if you get to Montembeault, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, if I'm Army in their group, let's identify the top young goaltender. Let's give him a taste of what it's like in this environment.
Yeah. So
that he will be the next. He may be the second guy next time.
Could be.
And so the idea is let's groom someone to get in that 3-hole. To me, that would be the wisest choice. And I think when you look at that board, if that was their strategy, like let's not just take the top 3 goaltenders. If we get the 3, we're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
Let's take a young guy who can absorb and possibly become that guy.
Yeah. Only 23 players for each roster. I wish it was a little.
It should have been 25.
Yeah. I mean, because I will say.
That's what it is for every other international.
Like Caulfield, okay, I get it. Clayton Keller, listen, I'd love to have Clayton. And maybe the concern is, hey, if these guys aren't scoring, what are they bringing to the table? I mean, a little bit undersized, whatever. Tage Thompson, he's a hell of a player, man. I would have liked to see them find a spot for him. For all 3 of those guys who I'm talking about. But Tage in general, with his size and the way he scores and how he scores a lot of goals at the front of the net, too. He's not all one-timer out there on the perimeter.
I think that's a miss for them.
Tage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you agree with me?
I think that's a miss. I think that it's rare. Players that are his size that score at the rate that he does are very rare. And I think that
he's not just a one-timer.
But if your argument is that he's liability, whatever, okay, you could say that about a lot of offensive players. So we'll see if they don't score goals, they're going to feel the heat.
Yeah. And they should be able to score with the team that they have. But I agree with you saying it's the best roster ever. Let's
pump the brakes a bit.
Let's see how they do. And they've got a lot of great superstars on there. There's no doubt. Is the D a little soft, real quick? I mean, they got Quinn Hughes, who's incredible. You got Slavin. McAvoy plays with some toughness.
No, you don't need toughness.
Hanifin. Yeah, it's different. Okay, so you just need skaters.
Just guys who defend well are hard on the puck.
Yeah.
Like you don't need guys who hit.
Yeah.
Like Colton, everyone's so upset about how he plays defense a lot of times.
Yeah.
And he's a good defender.
Yeah, but there's physicality.
He's got a great stick.
But there's different types of physicality. Like how often do you see him get beat out of the corner or in front of the net? Like he wins his battles.
Yeah, it's about the puck. It's not the game's changed.
Yeah.
It's about the puck.
Dodge Tires and Auto Centers, like I said, as well as Bartolino's brings us Jamal Mayers each and every week here on Hockey Sense. Brought to you by First Community. Great to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
You have anything you want to say about those guys?
Yeah, I'm just excited about Bartolino's new restaurant. Encourage anyone to check it out. I think they just started a lunch menu as well. So great time when you're all stressed out about the holidays, no need to cook. Head over to Bartolino's.
Yeah. First Community, by the way, sign your son or daughter up for the Little Blues, man. You ever seen that Little Blues program? Did Cruz start with that?
I participate and help out with that.
It's an amazing program.
What I love about the program is that, not to digress, but I'll take you back. This program started coming out of the 2004 lockout, and the players wanted to have a say in how organizations are doing things development-wise in the grassroots area. And so what we wanted to do was partner with the league to create a program at a nominal cost. That's why it doesn't cost more than,
No.
in any market, more than $150,
Right.
usually between 100 and 150.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 8 to 10 lessons, full gear,
All your equipment.
and you get to try it.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, if my kid wants to play soccer, yeah, get him a soccer ball and his cleats and go try it.
Yeah.
Hockey's expensive. So how do we create a try? Let's just try it
A trial
entry.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, as a parent, spend $700 on equipment and they do it 10 times and they don't want to play.
Yeah.
So, it's more about opportunity for kids just to try it. And I think that making it fun, and I think that's what they've done a really good job of it. St. Louis, I think the Blues are probably one of the best in the entire league in how they've created that program.
Mhm.
And the amount of kids that move into the next program to learn to play is really high compared to the rest of the league. And, credit to Randy Gersh and his team and Nick and all the people over there that do a fantastic job of creating a program that's fun and exciting and allows kids the opportunity to try and want to continue.
Yeah, no, I love it. Again, happy birthday, David Novak with Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Get in there, support David today. He'll talk hockey with you and fix your roof. It's a match made in heaven. And Dobbs Tires and Auto Centers, man. I sent somebody else there the other day, Jammer. So
Yeah, I mean, as you know, they're unbelievable. Like, they have 43 locations. Dobbs was offering winter driving deals on the best tire brands, including up to $275 savings on the Goodyear tires, plus other money saver deals on new sets of Cooper, Continental, and BF Goodrich tires. Go to Dobbs.com for more information.
there we go. All right, thanks for coming in, man. As always. Always good to see Jamal Mayers. We thank Doug Armstrong for joining us as well. There's your camera right there.
Oh, perfect. You got to let me know that. That's usually regular TV camera.
And Army coming in, we appreciate that as always. So we'll do it again next week. Hope everybody enjoyed this edition of Hockey Sense. We'll see you next week.